Hello, my name is Jillian O'Grady, and this is my capstone presentation for Curriculum in Design. The research topic that I chose was on social and emotional learning, and I chose this because social and emotional learning is vital for creating cohesive classrooms, strong students, and mindful individuals. It's something that helps both teachers and students inside school and in their personal lives. I came with social and emotional learning as a topic because in my school in particular, a problem that I found was that teachers did not have a lot of knowledge on social and emotional learning, and so they didn't know how to properly implement them in their classrooms. This led to students having a deficiency with social and emotional skills, and it was likely brought about the fact that there was a lack of access to SEL and how to incorporate that into the classroom. So I came up with this question of how can a professional development on social and emotional learning be used to provide teachers with the ability to utilize SEL in their classrooms. With all that in mind, I developed a professional development on social and emotional learning. It is broken into 2 sessions and is approximately about 5 hours long. In session 1, there is more of a vague background information on what is social and emotional learning, the impact of social and emotional learning, and how a teacher is involved with social and emotional learning. This was done first so that in session 2, we can go deeper with what is the framework, how to implement social and emotional learning, the 5 competencies of self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, social awareness, and relationship skills, and what does this look like in a classroom? What does an individual look like with these 5 competencies? For my professional development, I created this based on a survey that was taken by 5 teachers. I had both qualitative and quantitative data with 3 open-ended questions and 2 ranking questions that were asking teachers on their knowledge or familiarity of SEL. Because I was using qualitative and quantitative data, I used the concurrent data analysis method to analyze both of these data types at the same time. And then because I was trying to find specifically what issues I needed to address with the professional development, I used thematic data analysis to identify any consistent areas of struggle or successes. The quantitative data is shown on the slide above, and it is asking on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being highly knowledgeable and 1 being no knowledge. How would you rank your knowledge on social and emotional learning? And then question 2 is asking on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 often and 1 being not at all, how often do you discuss social and emotional competency in your classroom? Most teachers rank themselves low to low average, with teacher C being an outlier with a average to above average ranking system. And I figured out why teacher C was an outlier in the qualitative responses. So for my qualitative data, question 1 asked, what do you think social and emotional learning is? And in this response, I found that most teachers had a vague outline of what it may be, but most did not really have an understanding of what SEL truly was. And the reason why teacher C ranked themselves so high in SEL is because I found out in my qualitative data, they had actually had a previous professional development at their previous place of employment. Question 2 was asking why should a student know the following things, and then I went over the 5 competencies. The 5 competencies were important to address as I knew that they were a huge part of SEL, and I was glad I included this as a lot of teachers, their responses were very vague and not in depth in terms of why students should know the 5 competencies. Question 3 was asking why a teacher should know the competencies, as SEL does not just affect students, it also affects teachers as well. And teachers' responses were more in depth, but also showed a lack of understanding of SEL competencies. And so for my results and my conclusions, it showed that teachers have a general knowledge of SEL, whether or not they realize it, that they do not know the 5 competencies of social and emotional learning, that they have an in-depth understanding on, they have little in-depth understanding on what specifically SEL does, and it proved that teachers, they do implement social and emotional learning in little ways on their own, even if they do not realize they are doing so. A strength that I had was the fact that I used qualitative and quantitative data for my survey. As seen with teacher C for the quantitative data, I would have not understood why they already knew social and emotional learning if not for the qualitative responses. And then participants as well was a strength, as I had a very broad, diverse subjects to choose from. I had both female and male, as well as a broad range of experience from 30-year veterans to 5-year teachers. Then weaknesses, I had a lack of direction and a lack of number of questions. The questions themselves definitely would be something I worked on in the future and altered them, as the lack of directions led to a lack of in-depth responses, very repetitive answers, and then the lack of numbers led to minimal data to analyze. Influential factors was some teachers did have pre-existing knowledge on what SEL did, as we see with Teacher C, and so they were either already familiar with or already practicing SEL, and it was not made clear until after the survey was already taken. Then a lack of honesty, as some teachers provided answers that they thought were correct, but perhaps were not correct, or they gave answers that they thought were what I wanted, and I just needed a genuine, honest answer. Recommendations for future investigations, as I stated in the previous slide, more complex questions that gave more in-depth answers, as well as more questions so that I had more data to analyze. And then I would also implement a survey for the end of the professional development to look at the lingering effects of social and emotional learning and how that affects students, classroom culture, and teachers. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I appreciate your time.